This week, we follow Doctor Who and Love Actually as they go hunting for a giant worm to add to our runaway nightmare worm farm. We watched 1988's The Lair of the White Worm.
I don't want to make a joke about a white worm. There's nothing to say other than penis. I guess penis. Penis. It's a penis. It's a white worm. It's a penis.
Penile.
Penile.
Peanuts.
Stabby Stabby.
Hi, welcome to another episode of Stabby Stabby. I'm one of your hosts, Eric. We're a podcast that breaks down horror, thriller, exploitation movies. We try to go for the obscure when we can. We go plot point by plot point, and hope that maybe you've watched them with us. And if you haven't, you follow along and you chuckle to yourself, and then a little piece of poop comes out. And we're happy to have you here.
Welcome to the podcast. Eric hopes you shit your pants.
Today I'm just drinking a water. I'm hanging out. No beer for me, but I'm going to drink some beer over the weekend. I plan on it.
Hey.
Who else we got there? Dan.
Oh, it's
What's up,
me.
Man?
I'm Dan. I'm one of your other hosts, Dan. And today, what am I drinking? I'm drinking a Root Down Brewing Company Dance Baby Do Acid Volume 2. Let me tell you, that's really good advice.
What style is that, Dan?
It is a sour wheat ale, and it's 5.5%. So I'm going to pound this all night. I'm not sleeping. I'm just drinking. Hey, Greg, what are you up to? Where's my Greggy boy?
You know, I'm here just listening to all the fun. And I'm drinking a Austin Street Brewing, what does that say? Florin's American IPA out of Portland, Maine.
Hey.
6.9% nice. And just here to talk about big old white worms, boys.
Lair of the White Worm.
This was wait, who brought this to the Eric? How do you know this movie? What is your connection to this white worm? Besides the balls and crotch area
connected to you.
I was like, what's the most penis-y movie we could talk about?
Ooh, boy.
No,
Check.
Yeah, I don't know where I have such the worst memory. I think I must have seen it late night, probably on cable at some point, maybe HBO or Showtime or something. I've definitely have seen it back in like the VHS days. And then when Vestron re-released it on Blu-ray, I immediately snatched it up, and it's been a regular watch for me. So yeah, I knew its reputation, and then I was a fan of the director, Ken Russell, who's done The Who's Tommy, Altered States, The Devils. So I honestly can't remember exactly when I first saw it, but it's been with me for a while, and I wanted to talk about it on the podcast for quite some time. So happy to be revisiting it.
Anything with a reference to a penis in the title is A-okay in my book.
Right,
I'm here for it.
You're very easily pleased.
I am. You know, you have a rule about titties, and I just want penile wordplay. That's it.
All right, hey, to each their own. But yeah, I'm glad we're revisiting this. I don't know, like, I used to get them mixed up between Lair of the White Worm and Serpent in the Rainbow.
So color and worm and snake related. That makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, very different movies, but I was happy to rewatch this one again. It's been a while. Totally, like, I forgot just how British this movie is.
Oh yeah, maybe we should say up front, should we reestablish that we know nothing about British culture? So I was lost for long stretches of this movie. Sorry, I cut you off, Greg. What were you going to say?
No, I don't even remember. I don't know what I was going to say. It was just, it felt, and we'll maybe talk about it, but like the acting in this movie, I don't know if it was like intentionally this way or if this is just how it just naturally was going. Like, it all felt very stilted. But yeah, I don't know. What do you guys think?
Are you asking if British people are naturally stilted?
I'm yes, I guess.
Oh, I thought you were saying like I don't know if I could read these British people as acting or if this is just the way they were then.
I mean, we're all big fans of Downton Abbey, right? So.
Oh hell yeah!
Oh no.
Oh wait, I think I've seen like 2 episodes of that show, and from what I saw, it seemed well done.
Greg, you're a Doctor Who fan, right? So
Yeah, they don't act like this in
exposure.
Doctor Who. And Doctor Who himself, Peter Capaldi's in this, and he acted very differently than when he acts in Doctor Who. So
Well, I have to say, I'm not saying this is an excuse for the acting, but I did for this watch. I listened to the commentary, the Ken Russell audio commentary,
Nice.
rather than watching the straight up movie, just because I had watched it last year, not too long ago. And I don't know what his reference is, but there's one point where he says he told the actors to watch this specific British movie or teleplay or something, and he was like, act like that. So he gave them very specific acting directions, which may lead to the fact that it feels stilted or feels stylized. I feel like Lynch does that too. He has a very stylized way that he wants his actors to deliver their lines. So it may be intentional. It probably is. But I don't know enough about the thing that he was referencing, the play, to go into any more detail about it. But yeah,
Just maybe
sticking up for Ken Russell a little bit.
Lynch's stilted performance is done well, and M. Night Shyamalan's stilted performance is done not so well. Ken Russell's someplace in the middle. But we'll get into that.
Yeah. Right on.
All right. Well, why don't we hop into this hole, grab that white worm, pull it on out, and play with it a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Drop.
Now let's get to the plot.
So 1988's The Lair of the White Worm, directed by Ken Russell, and cinematography by Dick Bush. Best name in the business is what I'd say. It opens up on another of the fantastic Vestron classic logo. So that's 2 Vestron movies in a row. You're welcome. Everybody go watch Dracula, Sovereign of the Damned, and then this. They're canon. They go together. It all works. Well, they're not canon. They're not canon films. They're Vestron. Yeah, but that's a whole other thing.
They're both fangy.
Well, that's a good point. They're both Bram Stoker.
Man.
And they both involve fangs and biting and infecting people permanently.
Right.
Are we doing a Dracula series?
Guys, I think we're a Dracula podcast now.
Oh, we're a Draccast.
It's sucky. All right, name change incoming. I got to draw this logo.
So it opens up on our credits, and we kind of have a slow camera pull in on a cave and a mountain. Then we cut to Angus Flint. His name is. He's a student archaeologist played by Peter Capaldi, and he's pulling up a giant animal skull out of the ground, and it's just right in the front yard of a house. So that was very interesting.
Yeah, could you imagine being like, "Yo, guy's coming to stay with us. He's gonna dig up the front yard and look at ancient ruins from Rome." That'd be kind of badass to think every morning when I was really drunk and I had to run outside to pee. I don't know why I would do that. Sometimes I run outside to pee. I could be doing it onto pagan sacrificial grounds or something. I like that kind of history. That's nice.
Yeah. Dan, are you still peeing outside?
You know what? I don't really want to talk about it.
All right. Daly, I had to put it on one of my New Year's resolutions quite a while ago to cut down on the outside peeing. It's just becoming a problem.
Yeah. You don't know who's got their Ring door camera just set to your backyard.
Yeah. Right. It was weird because you would just walk over to the neighbor's side window and just stare into it while you peed. You wouldn't do anything weird.
No,
you made a big show of it. You would undo his pants and put a hand on the window and kind of lean forward and breathe heavily. Made eye contact with them the whole time. What a night.
They're having their late night snack, Oreos.
How we got there from pulling a giant animal skull out of the ground, I'll never understand this podcast.
Only history will know.
So we also meet Eve and Mary Trent. They run a guest house on the farm, like estate lands that they're on.
Are they slaves or feudal peasants? Is that how this works?
Oh, they're sisters, and I think they just work there. Like I consider it like a Airbnb or like a bed and breakfast type place.
Yeah.
But also people just come and go willy-nilly there.
Yeah, that's what I was asking. There isn't much privacy in this establishment, we'll say.
Yeah, there's definitely like a hierarchy they set up. Like there's like the commoner folk and then like the aristocrats, like rich folks. You know?
The aristocrats are there.
The aristocrats.
But it's
the Disney animated film.
but it's in the background.
One of the themes of the movie. I'm going to be annoying because I have all this background stuff, but from the commentary. But the opening house is 5 miles from Ken Russell's home.
Perfect.
So he was like, yeah, I could just get there in no time. So that's why I selected that location. Thought that was interesting.
The rest of the crew has to travel 3 hours on back roads. He's just talking about like, I just woke up 10 minutes ago. But in a thick British accent, of course.
Yeah, and apparently he's there's a hitchhiker or hikers that walk in the background, not hitchhikers, just regular hikers. And he's one of them in the background, a little Hitchcock
nice
moment.
Huh.
Yeah.
All right. So, we're at the guest house. They dug up a giant skull. Angus comments that the skull was too shallow to be a dinosaur, even though it looks like a dinosaur skull. And also, he found like old Roman coins in that kind of same layer of soil. So they would have been down there at the same time.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and we also learned that a convent was built on top of that same land where that house is now.
Oh, yeah.
So pay attention. This gave us a lot of information.
Is our first nun movie
No.
where that features nuns?
Does this really feature nuns? I guess there are nuns.
There's lots of nuns in it.
Yeah.
I mean,
There's like a reincarnated nun in it. Shit,
Might
I
be.
think this might be our first nun movie. Oh,
Man.
yeah.
It's not really nunsploitation, but hey, we'll take it.
We'll get there. We'll get you.
Yeah.
We'll get you nude nuns with big guns. Don't worry. That's a real movie, and I have it.
Oh,
I haven't
shit.
watched it yet.
I want to watch that.
All right, so that night, Angus and Mary end up going to a party at the Lambton estate. It celebrates.
Before we jump, sorry.
Greg's gonna die.
Sorry.
No, you're good.
There's a bunch of worm clues in that opening setup. There's like a long shot of a garden hose, and then there's the tube of a vacuum cleaner that's white that they focus on. They do like a lingering shot on. So there's
worm stuff.
There's worm and dongs everywhere in this movie.
Yeah, and we get more at the party too.
Yep.
So now they go to a party at the Lambton estate. It celebrates James Lambton's ancestor killing the great white worm that was, I guess, killing people in the area.
Yeah.
We do get an amazing like folk punk song about it.
Yeah.
About like the history and story. I couldn't really make out much of the lyrics, but it sounded cool.
Dude, that song was a banger. That was so fun.
It really, really was. It's right up my alley. I like that kind of stuff.
I think that's my favorite kind of exposition is musical. When they write a song that's like, here's the story you need. I love it. Thank you.
Yeah.
More of that, Hollywood.
Yeah, when the menu for the Blu-ray comes up, it's that song.
Nice.
Which doesn't seem to fit the movie at first, and then they flash all the images up.
And swallow little babes alive when they lay down to sleep. So John set out and caught the beast and cut it into halves. And that soon stopped it, eating babes and sheep and lambs and cat.
But yeah, apparently it's real. It's a real song. It's from real folk song, folk song with real lyrics.
Oh, awesome.
So, yeah.
Well, that's a great version of it.
Yeah, I guess that whole legend that Bram Stoker had taken was based off of like a local dragon snake-like creature. So, and then he built the story around it.
Nice.
And then this rich, pompous child of a lord who recently took over his family's inheritance gets to throw like punk rock parties with seizure-inducing lighting effects. Where there's like it's like the Chinese puppet dragon thing, but it's the giant, huge white worm, and it gets slashed in half by the kid wearing a tuxedo. It was all a bit much. It was a lot.
Yeah. That was James Dampton, played by what's his name? Hugh Grant.
Huge Grant.
Huge rant. Yeah, that was a fun party. They
It was.
At one point, like James Dampton and Angus are talking near like the food, and Angus is just eating a bunch of stuff, and it turns out it was like pickled earthworms or something.
Yep.
Well, he wasn't just eating it. It was like a potluck meal. And he's standing there fresh off. Did he change his clothes after he was digging in the nasty dirt?
Probably.
Because it looked like he was in the same clothes, and I could have sworn he still had like dirt under his nails, and he was just digging his nasty, filthy archaeologist mitts into the middle of a bowl that I thought was like gummy worms or something. He was like grossing me out. He was grossing me out. That's not good etiquette. You got to use a spoon in the potato salad.
Yeah, and he should also go home and brush his teeth and swallow all the toothpaste.
Yeah, like a real badass.
With the commentary, I don't know what the trust is. Just Ken Russell like fucking with you, and what's actually real, because he's completely a madman. But within the commentary, he says that the actor threw up all over his kilt after that scene and it had to be dry cleaned. But I can't tell if he's just screwing around or not. So take it or leave it. Yeah.
Nice.
He also keeps calling his own film a masterpiece throughout the entire commentary. It's hilarious. It's like a whole nother realm of entertainment. I want to listen to all his commentary now because he's really entertaining.
What do you think he's on when he's recording?
I don't know.
This is just his natural state. His resting state is cocaine.
He talks about drinking a lot. He was like, I would leave. He was like, I would leave for lunch every day. It wasn't on this film. I think it was on a different film, Altered States. He was like, when I was filming Altered States, I would leave for lunch so I could have some alcohol with my lunch, because at the film studio, they didn't have alcohol. And one of the execs was like, we need to talk about the film over lunch. And he's like, I'm not on the film lot. And he was like, why? And he was like, because you don't serve alcohol. And he's like, well, what do you want? I'll get it for you. And he's like, well, I don't know what I want until I have the food. It might be red wine. It might be white wine. It could be, so the exec was like, I'll tell you what, if you ask for a Pepsi, it's red. If you ask for a Sprite, it's white. If you ask for this, it's that. And he was like, you know what I did? I ended up having it all the varieties.
Wow.
So,
that's awesome.
So he's, and a lot of the commentary, they were talking, I watched like the special effects. They were talking about how he would show up and just be drinking champagne at like 8:00 in the morning as he walked on set.
Jesus.
For a different film set. So I don't know. I mean, a lot of his movies have a lot of psychedelics and drugs and alcohol and stuff. So who knows?
Gentlemen, we're in the wrong line of work.
Yeah, I was going to say, we should make a movie.
Yeah, it sounds fun.
Sounds like the right way to go. All right. Are we moving on? Can we move on?
Do worms have skulls? All right, yeah, we can move on.
I don't think so.
I don't think worms have skulls.
I don't think they do.
Okay.
But I think this is more of a snake.
Yeah, I think I agree with you.
All right. So Angus and Mary leave the party and walk back home, and we learn that people have started disappearing on this shortcut that they're taking, including her parents. They have disappeared and have never returned. Nothing has been found. But as they're walking home, they see a car with no headlights pull up to an abandoned house, or at least a house that currently no one is living in. They get back to the guest house, and Ernie the cop is there. He's like the sheriff of the town. He gives them Mary's dad's pocket watch, which was found in a nearby like cavern or cave. Mary tells Ernie about the strange car that pulled into the house, and Ernie heads over to take a look.
You know what? My favorite part about this scene was when they're walking back down this trail that I was trying to imagine Peter Capaldi's perspective on this, where he's clearly interested in this little blonde lady that lives on the property that he's staying at. And she's walking down this trail and all of a sudden stops and is like, I haven't been down this trail in a year since my mom and dad died here on this trail.
Jesus.
And then and I was like, oh, that's quite a way to end a party. Take your new friend down the murder trail. And then she goes on to tell him like, oh, and then my boyfriend killed himself on his motorbike. And then that's the moment that Peter Capaldi like swoops in for a kiss.
Is that what she said on his motorbike?
Yeah.
I thought she said water pipe.
But did she?
I didn't get it.
Wait, did she?
I mean, motorbike makes way more sense.
But kill yourself on the water pipe would be I guess a more suicidal reference, because I assumed that she meant like he was like a joyrider and accidentally died or something.
I think you're right. I just couldn't. The accent was very thick there. I
Well,
couldn't
they
understand
should have
it.
cut to like a flashback of like the boyfriend doing like a wicked bong rip. Just like, oh, I can't hold it anymore. And his head just explodes.
If you're trying to ask me if I've got a boyfriend, the answer's no. Not now. Killed himself on a motorbike. Tough bugger.
This is why I need to watch stuff with closed captioning, and I didn't. So,
I mean, either way, no matter how he died, whether by bong rip or motorcycle, I feel like I'm learning from this movie that that's actually when you should swoop in for a kiss.
He's like, all those death talks get me horny.
Here we go.
Let's go. The other commentary piece is Ken Russell's talking about the policeman, the actor, and he's like, look at his eye. You see his eye? You can't look him right in the eye. The poor guy's got like a lazy eye.
Yeah,
the actor, and he's like burning on him in the commentary, and it comes up later too. I was like, dude, give him a break.
I loved his character. I thought the cop was like adorable and goofy.
Yeah,
and I wish American cops were like that. I wish we had like little silly chubby bobbies that would walk around and say like cute colloquialisms. You know, wrap little kids on the butt and send them home. That's nice.
Well, maybe don't do that.
Yeah,
made the last one's questionable. I assumed that the lazy eye thing was like an intentional like casting choice that it's like a shifty eyed cop. You can't read him.
Huh. Yeah. Oh, interesting. I don't know. I didn't think of it that way, but I like that.
I mean, you thought he was adorable though.
100%. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, well, we're all in agreement. I'd buy his Lego set.
Him and like Orville Ketchum would be hanging out together, like on the weekends.
Just trading stories and trading raw meat sandwiches.
Man, I love that read on Orville Ketchum. If he's that cop's son, then Orville Ketchum finally getting to mow down bad guys with a gun would be like him living up to his dad's aspirations. What a complete character arc.
I didn't need him to be a son. I just needed them to be friends. But I'm fine with your direction too. When we do Hard to Die 2, Lair of the White Worm 2, Orville in space. Yeah.
That's perfect.
All right.
It's like the Avengers, but for these shitty movies.
Oh, it's perfect. All right. While Ernie is searching the grounds around that abandoned house, he gets bitten by a snake, or he gets bitten by something. And Lady Sylvia Marsh ends up finding him, takes him home. We see her sucking the venom out of his ankle.
Yep.
Hard cut to it.
She doesn't spit it out either. Just swallows up, bad boy.
Yep. And she makes a joke about the first swallow of spring.
I love
which
that.
I thought was pretty funny.
My dear man, you should know by now that I change my car as regularly as a snake sheds its skin.
Yes, but we wasn't expecting you back till the spring, as usual.
It is spring, look. Here's to the first swallow. Cheers.
Cheers.
She is amazing in this movie. She's so funny.
She is fantastic. I mean, she's all in. And it looks like she's having fun. Like her character seems kind of fun. I'm like, I kind of want to hang out with her. As long as she doesn't kill me, you know?
Yeah.
She stole the whole thing. Every scene she wasn't in, I wanted her in it. She was the best.
She's great. Apparently, Tilda Swinton turned down the role. She was offered the role after like reading the script. She was like, not for me. And I can't imagine anybody else at this point. You know, she's great.
Yeah. Ah, that's really cool. No, yeah, she's awesome. But yeah, she takes Ernie into the house and sucks out the venom. They talk about what's going on, and he tells her about, like, they set up a search party for tomorrow to look for Mary and Eve's parents because they found the watch. So maybe there's a chance that they're still alive, even though they disappeared a year ago. And she seems very interested in this.
Maybe there won't be bones, love.
Yeah. So the next day, Sylvia ends up going over to the Trent house, the guest house. In the morning, she sees the excavation hole that Angus had dug and starts heading into the house because no one is there apparently. And you're just welcome to walk into any home when you're in England.
Poke around in the drawers.
Yeah.
This is where I was wondering about, because she's like a lord or a lordess or whatever they call it. And she's got like this huge palatial mansion, and Hugh Grant is a lord. And has a huge palatial mansion, and they keep talking about people living on their property, and that's when they were talking about these people that were manning the bed and breakfast and stuff, which is why I was wondering, like, oh, this feels feudal. It feels like lords and peasants and like class structures, and yeah, I what you were saying earlier, Eric, I was also reading that into the themes. That feels on the nose.
Yeah, well, maybe they're still like taking care of the property and stuff like that. You know, they're just the hired hands or something.
They have people for that. Yeah.
Right. That's right. Yeah. She's got our femme fatale here, the snake woman. She's got these great like skinny glasses that are green on the edge with like amber glass and this green hood. Like they're going really all in on the snake aspect. And she just kind of laughs at the hole, at the excavation hole. Just like cracks up at it.
Well, so let me finish this scene because it's I want to talk about it.
Okay.
So yeah, she goes in the house. She ends up finding and stealing the giant skull that Angus had dug up. It's in Angus's room. As she leaves, there's a crucifix on the wall, and she hisses, and fangs are very blatant in her mouth, and she spits like venom onto the crucifix on the wall, and then leaves. So that's where I found interesting that they were like, yeah, we're just going to tell you straight at the beginning of this movie that she's a snake lady. Like,
no messing around.
But I also don't understand her as the snake lady. Like, I guess, yeah, we learn over the course of movies, it's kind of like being a vampire. So she's not a reincarnation of the white worm, right?
No, I think she lives forever.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, let's spoil the end right now. Let's dive in.
We'll definitely get there in about 2 hours, but
yeah, she mentions, towards the end, she mentions how she's watched, or in the middle of the movie.
Yeah.
She has a line about, do you believe in reincarnation? Because I've watched, people being reincarnated over and over through time.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think she's right. Dan's point, she's been around for quite some time. She's like an ancient being.
All right, so she's just Draculaed it up for a while.
Yeah. And like Eric said, her costume's amazing. I wrote in my notes that I thought her costume felt like whoever did the original costume for the first Dracula movie, how iconic that became for the character. This felt like kind of a spin on that with the big coats and flared collars and giant glasses and stuff. It felt very like archetypal in a weird way. I loved it. Yeah, she looked awesome.
She wears some better stuff later in the movie too. Yeah. What I'm saying.
Yup. That costuming job got a lot easier towards the end.
The skull is what's the name of the god that's the skull's from?
Dionin.
Right. So it's like,
or Dionin or something.
Yeah. It's like her god. She goes into the room, she like drops to her knees to approach the skull. And,
I love that.
It's very, very cool. Oh wait, isn't this is the scene, right? This is when she touches it?
Yeah, when she first finds it, yeah.
Yeah, and she touches the cross and we get the nuns, right?
We're about to get there.
That's coming up.
That's
coming up.
Okay. Oh, they're not yet. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I just want to get to the nuns.
Me too.
We'll get to the nuns. We're getting to the nuns. We're getting there.
Before we get there, you know who used to be my favorite were Roman centurions. This movie disabused me of that.
Yeah. All right, so we're getting to the nuns here. Later on, Eve and James arrive back at that same house. Eve finds a note, I think, from Mary about that they found the watch and there's going to be a search party in the morning, or that maybe she is already gone for the search party. I don't know. We didn't get to read a note. Eve goes upstairs to take a nap, and she touches the venom on the crucifix because she didn't know what it was, and she starts having hallucinations. She sees Jesus on the cross. There's a giant white snake there. There's a snake woman, and there's an orgy with Roman centurions and nuns. But it's not so much an orgy as it's like, I don't think it was consensual.
Yeah, we'll call it a non-consensual orgy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was shocking. And is it fair? Am I allowed to say it was a fucking awesome scene?
Yes.
Is that cool? All right.
Yeah.
It was fucking awesome. It was rad as hell. It was so cool to watch.
The visuals were amazing. Yeah, it was a, and it makes sense. Like, she touched this like poison and is experiencing this, and it's just like an acid trip.
Exactly,
really, that's
like
what it is. Yeah,
but extremely taboo and sacrilegious. Sorry, Eric, you're not allowed to talk.
No, I'm there. I'm with you guys. I just feel like the tone just shifted in this movie so much, and it's badass. It like kind of catches you off guard.
Yeah,
because it just goes like in this whole different surrealistic like direction. There's like superimposed fire. There's a giant snake puppet snake wrapped around Jesus. There's topless bloody nuns. Like, it just goes completely bonkers. I did listen to the part of the special effects guys talking about how they pulled off some of the stuff, and the one dude was saying he was working the worm puppet and it on his hand, you know, the mouth.
Yeah.
And he couldn't really see what he was doing, and the poor actor that was playing Jesus, he kept smacking him in the side of the head with the puppet by mistake. But what he didn't know was they had a real crown of thorns on his head.
No!
So it was digging the thorns into his head when he would hit him, and the guy was like screaming in pain. And they had to stop, I guess, and take the thorns out or whatever. But,
Jesus.
Yeah, I was like, oof, that is not good.
I have a question about this scene. So, a little spoiler for later, but so Eve touches the venom, and it's mentioned later that and you kind of implied a lot of it already, that like Sylvia tells Eve that, I've seen you, you're a reincarnation of someone I knew back in the Roman times, and so do you think was Eve one of those nuns?
I think so.
Like, okay, so it's less a hallucination and more of like a trippy, like past life memories coming back.
Dude, I wrote exactly that sentence. I wrote trippy past life memories.
All right,
nice.
Because I didn't put it together until now because I'm dumb.
No, you're not. Yeah, no, I think at least that's how I read it. And
that's cool.
I guess we'll get there when we get to the other hallucination, the next one on the line. But there's like two kinds of hallucinations in this movie, which is kind of one of the things that makes it badass and awesome.
And they're both very sexy.
The building's is built on the old convent as well, too.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
It's like burying something over the Indian burial ground. You're gonna get some bad shit.
If Eve in another life was in this convent and she's just reincarnated into somebody that's just working in the house that's built in the same spot of land as the convent, maybe it's you can't escape your like destiny for things.
I guess.
I don't know where I might go with that, but
I am your density.
Yes.
Well, we could do this completely out of order. I have a theory about that, I guess, or maybe there's like a way to read it. It's not like an in-lore fictional thing, but like thematically, by the end you find out about the snake worm. We can cut all this out if you don't want to bust up the sequence, but I don't really give a shit. I kind of do just want to chat about this movie. Yeah. All right. At the end they talk about how the snake god is they're worshiping the actual snake that was in the Garden of Eden that gave the woman the apple, the fruit of the tree of knowledge, and they worship it because they see the snake as liberating and as like giving humanity knowledge, and that God is actually the evil one for wanting to keep people like in chains. And so like if you read into those kinds of themes, then I guess you could say that like this war is never ending, and in the same way that the girl's reincarnating on that same property, like the Lordess is also still on that property. She also isn't going anywhere. So maybe it's like as that struggle between God and the snake is ongoing, all these actors are kind of stuck here or something.
Just like the beginning of Dracula Sovereign of the Dead, when the narration says like there's a constant struggle through all of time and space of good and evil. Just saying, this was an accident.
This is a Marvel movie. This is an origin story for Marvel's greatest villain character.
That's interesting. Also, did they say that in the movie? That it's like why they worship the snake?
It's in the very end when she's doing the ritual that reminded me so much of Dagon, the closing scene of Dagon. When she's doing that, then she says like, we worship you, the original tree serpent who spoke with Eve, who gave humanity the gift of knowledge. Yeah, she goes all into it.
So here's the problem. You can't deliver like exposition dialogue when you have a naked woman on screen. I'm not gonna hear
it. even if you watch it twice and you're responsible for writing down the plot points.
Yeah, didn't hear it. I don't remember that part.
Doubly distracted. Greg was talking into a different kind of microphone. Oh, wink, wink.
Oh man, that's so sad for me.
It was because she was painted blue, right? Isn't that the reason?
Yeah,
that's his thing.
I thought she was the Smurf girl, Smurfette.
Yeah. Ken, if you wrote this movie, Ken, you blew it. You blew it. Ruined it for Greg.
Nice. All right. So
Dan,
we're past.
To Dan's point with like the Romans versus
the nuns.
The nuns. There's definitely like a paganism versus Christianity thing going on too.
Bigly.
Yeah.
And all the later on when no, I'll wait. I'll hold on to it. I noticed a little costuming thing but we'll get there. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
I really love this movie, Eric. I'm so glad that we're talking about it. This was
me
awesome.
Too. Yeah, I thought this right up. Yeah, I love the religious stuff mixed into the horror. It just makes for good film.
I feel like this kind of like blasphemous, like tickling the taboo kind of film is the same as horror in the kind of like edgy release it gives you, and kind of just as therapeutic for me. I love it.
Yeah. Oh, I got to say, too, I know we're on a tangent, but for me, I mean, it's also like horror. It's definitely horror comedy. There's a lot of,
double entendres and puns and visual puns, and it's super goofy.
Yeah. One of the funniest scenes is coming up. So
let's do it.
All right. Yeah. Well, let's finish this scene first.
You could breeze through later ones now that we covered a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
All right.
Awesome.
So Eve has that hallucination. She tells James about what she saw, and they go, and she talked about how she saw a like white snake wrapped around a cross, and now that's just like in the excavation hole, like there's a mosaic of it. So we see that, and then they go into Angus's room to look for the skull, but it's missing. Angus comes home from the search party. He's not happy that the skull's missing, but we kind of just like cut from there. From there, we cut to Sylvia, who ends up picking up what I think is like a young Boy Scout kid.
Definitely.
Named Kevin. She picks him up on the road. He needed a ride back to like the youth hostel, but she decides to take him back to her house to dry off from the rain because she's just a sweetheart.
So innocent.
There are lots of innuendos in this car ride. What is he says like she's listening to like music and he's like, oh, I don't really like the banging, and she says like, oh, are you any good at the banging or something? I forget.
She says like, are you really into any kinds of banging?
That's it. Yeah, it's perfect.
There's some system you've got there.
How do you rate the music?
I'm not really into it, banging.
Are you into any sort of banging?
And he's so well cast as the little boy because he's just the epitome of innocence. He's such like a little chubby boyish dude, and oh yeah, he's fucked. In more ways than one.
He's really good at playing the mouth organ.
Oh yeah.
That's right. He has that old lower class accent, so you're like, yeah, he's gonna die for sure.
Yeah.
It's like in a war movie when you see a soldier whip out a picture of their like wife back at home. It's like Chekhov's gun, but for a widow. You know that guy's going down.
Now, how old do you think Kevin was?
I mean, he's staying in a youth hostel. He's less than 18.
Okay.
Or actually, no. In the UK, I wonder if that cutoff would be younger, like 16.
I'm thinking 15 or 16.
Yeah, somewhere around there. Yeah.
All right. So yeah, they end up going back to Sylvia's house. They play Snakes and Ladders with her. She must have changed into lingerie at some point. And they're just laying on pillows on the floor by the fire, playing Snakes and Ladders. I know it as Shoots and Ladders. Same game.
Beautiful board. I kind of wanted that board. I thought it was a pretty looking game.
Yeah.
She goes to put on music, but Kevin plays his mouth organ instead, and she's drawn like instinctually to the music. She starts kind of like snake dancing over to him, and she ends up taking it from him, and she gets a bath ready for him. Like she's treating him like a king here. She's got the bath ready. She's got him naked and into the tub where she is sponging him down, only to have him stand up. And she bites what you can only she opens her mouth, her fangs come out, and she ends up biting what you can only assume is his wiener.
Yep.
And ends up paralyzing him in the water. This is when we first kind of start hearing about the snake god Dionin. But she's holding up the best. She goes and grabs the skull. She starts walking down the stairs, like holding it above her head. And as she's about to like say something or do something, the doorbell rings, and it's the perfect delivery. The doorbell rings and she just goes like, well, shit. I think it's so funny. But because she's now got a paralyzed young teenage boy naked in her bathtub, she ends up just like putting her shoe on top of his head, and just like putting him underwater to drown.
I love this scene. She's so funny. So funny. She has one line where after she obviously like clearly bites his dick, he starts going into like shock and nestles back into the water, and she like lifts up and wipes her mouth off, and she has that line where she's like, "My boy, you have appalling BO. Save your breath. You have halitosis as well." And then she goes on to explain like, you're paralyzed in your body, you can't move, but you can still understand what I'm saying. And it makes the drowning part like, oh, what a gut punch. It was great.
Yeah.
Yeah, the commentary, Ken Russell's like, when he's going in the shock, the kid's just like shaking his head back and forth. And he was like, yeah, his acting's so bad in this scene, we decided to drown him.
Man.
Oh, man, that's brutal.
A little rip on the kid. Apparently, he wanted the kid to be, the actor to be nude, and he was like, nope. And they offered him a bunch of money, and he was like, nope, not doing it. So he had to put on his bathing suit for the scene.
No, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I'm fine with it, too.
Yeah, that's cool.
It wasn't necessary.
He's got this, like, hot actress like rubbing him with like bathing him. You gotta have bathing suit on. Like, he made a good choice.
You throw a tarp over that tent.
I didn't think about it that way. But that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it was less about shame for him and more about embarrassment of
etiquette.
Little do we know he had like 5 bathing suits on.
His mother lets him on the set of a Ken Russell film, but his mother also taught him that it's impolite to point. So bathing suit it is.
Yep. So poor Kevin is now drowned and dead in the tub. Sylvia goes and answers the door. It's James Dampton, our Hugh Grant boy. And he's coming over and he says that he's checking in on her snake problem because he talked to Ernie the cop, and he told him that he got bit by a snake. So he comes over. Basically he owns this land too, I guess.
Yeah. So
he offers to send somebody over to cut the grass, try to get rid of the snakes, don't give him a place to be. But yeah, they end up he ends up coming in. They have a drink. She tells him about her fear of snakes that she got from a snake bite when she was a kid, and she went into a coma for a week or something like that. James ends up comforting her a bit, and they end up kissing before he leaves. So we get a lot of snake talk basically in this scene.
I like that moment where she talks about how much she loves snakes and ladders, and then she chucks the board game in the fire and looks wistfully into the fire and goes, "Rosebud."
Yeah.
And Hugh Grant's like, "What was that?" Yeah, nice.
Yeah, that was good.
She's burning her secret. Oh, right before they kiss, she does a little flicker of her tongue too. Before they.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
Yeah, she sticks her tongue out and moves it around real quick.
Man, yeah. I didn't notice that either. There's so many little things. I didn't notice I didn't think about her costume, her outfit in the scene where she sold the skull and stuff like that. There's so much snake stuff.
It's everywhere. Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, and we've seen a lot more hoses and vacuums and things like that over the course of the movie as well. That just keeps coming up.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so here's our hallucination or, dream 2, I think.
Yeah.
So that night, James goes to bed and has a wild dream about going into an airplane, and Eve and Mary and Sylvia are there, and as well as who I believe are Eve and Mary's lost dead parents.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep.
We get a lot of snake imagery throughout this whole thing. Everyone gets tied up by seat belts, and Eve and Sylvia end up wrestling because Sylvia tried to feed some poison drink to James, but Eve stopped her, and then they wrestle, and the whole time they're rolling around on the ground. You could just see up their skirts, and James is just watching, and he's holding this red tipped pen.
Yeah.
And it's right at crotch level, and as he's watching it just slowly starts going up. It was the funniest thing I've ever seen.
The pen is greater than the sword. You just take that sentence and you put pen and is a little closer together.
The penis sword.
Yeah. Yeah.
The penis blade here.
That's the thing. Yeah.
That was the joke. And it was good.
I love this. This dream sequence is awesome.
Yeah.
You used the word earlier, Eric. Super surrealistic, super dreamlike. I feel like I've had dreams like this.
Yeah, they're in stewardess outfits, wearing pantyhose.
Yeah,
and stuff.
it's 50s. Yeah, it's all 50s aesthetic in this, 50s, 60s kind of thing.
It's also they're all talking about caves and caverns and snakes, and he climbs into that airplane, and it's very cavernous, and it's also a big snaky penis tube, and parents wrestling, and he's torn between two women, and it's great, super psychosexual.
Before the end of the dream, James, both girls are one is at one end of the plane, and the other's at the other, and they're tempting him by putting their stockinged legs out, trying to lure him in, Betty Boop. But he ends up just walking off the plane. He didn't go to either of the girls, and he walks off the plane and into a cave where he finds the pocket watch. But he's then awoken by his butler making noise with all the breakfast that he brought in. And James gets a newspaper. He sees a photo in the newspaper that looks similar to the painting of his ancestor killing the worm that's hanging on his bedroom wall. So that was quite a scene.
Yeah, they also show very quickly her ring in that dream sequence. It's just a Jesus ring. Her what's the character's name?
Jesus
Christ, our Lord and Savior.
Jesus of Nazareth.
Mary's ring.
Dr. Christ Jesus.
MD.
Mary's ring.
Yeah. Comes up later. That's why I mentioned it. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, that's a good call. So now
I
we
love
got
this movie. Sorry.
That's all right. It's okay.
Just keep bursting out. I'm gonna give this such a low stab rating.
Dude, just half a stab. Just literally just the tip. So James, Angus, Mary, and Eve end up going back to that cavern to search, where they found the pocket watch and where the search party was there before. A lot of dialogue in the scene I couldn't understand. But James is convinced that the worm is still there somewhere, like stuck somewhere, and the watch was just found recently because it was just like digested, or like it went through the worm's digestive tracts, but it couldn't be broken down, so it just passed.
James is smart in this. Hugh Grant is like saying all the right things and asking all the right questions, and everybody around him. I wanted the rich kid to be like a dipshit, but he's the smartest character in this movie.
Well, you know, he's if the worm in this situation is real, then like that gives the whole like folk tale of his like ancestry even more credence,
right?
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it makes it like more powerful. Totally.
Yeah. So I guess, and also he is kind of dumb. I think like he basically I think at one point says like, yeah, like this is my house now. I don't really know. This isn't my thing. I don't really want to do this.
He's like a fail son. He's like that spoiled rich kid that has never had to work in his day. Has a lot of book smarts, but like doesn't know how to do his own laundry. Like that kind of buffoon.
Yeah.
Are you guys gonna? I know this scene has a lot of exposition. Are you gonna skip over the cave drawing with the boner?
There's a cave drawing with a boner.
Sorry. This was getting to the point of the movie where I was like, they'll fill stuff in.
James is right. He essentially says like, oh, well, if this was a land creature, that we would catch a land creature by finding it when it's hunting. That's how they catch land creatures. And one of the girls is like, yeah, I saw that on a documentary. Wait, can we talk about really quick, Mary, the one with the short blonde hair? The way she delivers lines is exhausting.
Yes.
She like half screams them, but under her breath. It's a lot. It's a lot. But anyway, she's like, that's how we caught the Yeti, which was a weird thing to throw in there. But he's right. He was like, yeah, so that means that if we haven't caught it when it was out hunting, that would mean that it's stuck in these caves someplace, and maybe it passed the watch and it fell between the cracks in some rocks. So he insists that there's a chance it's still there, even though nobody has found it, which makes sense. He like reasons his way into there, and it totally works. They're all like, no, you're dumb for thinking that. What are you even talking about? I want to reach in there and slap him.
Yeah. Yeah, it's I missed so much of this, apparently. I tried so hard.
Hey, man, whatever sticks. Yeah.
Then
the titty stuck.
Well, yep. So James asks Angus to show him like this small fissure area that like the watch could have kind of come through, because that's where I think it kind of got washed with the rain and it kind of came through somewhere. Yeah. So anything else there that you want to talk? I wrote nothing for that scene because I honestly,
that was it. That was the whole point.
I couldn't understand the dialogue very much.
I would just say that scene. The cave is real and it's freaking awesome when they show the first, like the interior of it. You can see the countryside in the background. So how far they are elevated, and they have like this wide camera lens, so you can see the full vastness of the cave. Apparently it's called, I wrote it down somewhere, I can't find it, Thor's Cave or something like that. It's a real deal. So
Thor's Cave,
copyright,
right next to Thor's hammer.
Disney, don't sue us. And actually, cool. we I guess maybe we should mention that, that the cave painting that Eric mentioned with a penis, there's like a cave painting that has both breasts and a penis, and they're all like giggling at it, but that actually comes in later.
Yep.
That's totally a part of this.
The drawing reminded me of the dude in the Lebowski when he goes to Jackie Treehorn's house.
Nice.
And he rubs the pencil on the paper, and there's like an indentation of a dude with a boner.
Yep. All right, moving on.
Timeless art. Lasts through the millennia.
So James, Angus, and Mary remain in the cave looking for that fissure. Eve ends up going home because she's cold and miserable being in the cave. And as she's heading home, she comes across Sylvia, who is up in a tree.
You do.
Yeah. She says that she went up to rescue a cat, and then the cat jumped down, and now Sylvia herself is stuck up there. But she must have like charmed Eve somehow. I guess she's a snake, but she like asked for her hand to get help down. And this scene was great because her coming out of the tree, it's so smooth, and you only kind of see it from like abdomen up, but it just like it looks like she just floats down. It's really cool.
Total so Garden of Eden moment with the snake tempting Eve. Yeah, it's awesome. Sorry, am I saying the obvious? I'm just gonna say the obvious.
No, it's cool. It's
I
awesome.
literally didn't get it when I watched the movie, and I get it now. So
she like slithers out and totally hypnotizes her. It's really cool.
Like that snake in what it's a Jungle Book.
that is the sacred text that this is talking about.
Yeah.
Remember that scene in Jungle Book where Jesus was eaten by a snake in an orgy?
It's the Aristocats and the Jungle Book references.
It's a weird episode. All right, so Sylvia has hypnotized or charmed Eve, and Eve ends up going back to Sylvia's house. There's more nudity in the scene. Sylvia's in a what do you call them?
The tanning bed.
Tanning bed.
Yeah.
It's
the tanning bed. And this is where we learn that Sylvia she talks about how she's immortal and has seen Eve in another life, and this is back in like the Roman times, and Eve was a nun that she was a nun, worshipped God, obviously, like Jesus,
like Jesus,
not the snake god, and it was an interesting kind of scene. It was very it was interesting. I don't know how to describe it.
It reminded me of like vampire movies.
About Sylvia.
Yeah.
Dan, it did very much like a vampire kind of thing, and they mentioned vampirism later in the movie as well. So this being like a Bram Stoker story, I guess that makes sense. I haven't read much.
Yeah, it's basically like the English version of Dracula with snakes instead of vampires. But she also mentions that she built the convent was built over the sacred temple, which we had talked about earlier, but she like confronts her about it or like specifically mentions it.
That's right. Yeah.
So the Romans suppressed more than just Christianity. They also like suppressed all these old pagan cults too. Also, she had that line where she said that like souls are immortal and are reborn over and over and over again. So she's seen Eve born over and over and over again, which is maybe that's how these people never really leave, is because these souls are always like born in the area and tend to die in the area. They just keep recycling.
Yeah.
Which is cool.
Do you believe in reincarnation, Eve? I do. But then I am immortal. And I have seen the same souls inhabit different beings throughout history. I've seen you before, Eve. Many centuries ago. In the time of my lover, the great Emperor Carausius. Yes, I can see you now on your knees, blindly worshipping your false god. Fancy praying to a god who was nailed to a wooden cross, who locked up his brides in a convent. Did they really enjoy themselves, Poor little virgins, masturbating in the dark. And then in penance for their sins, indulging in flagellation till their bodies wept tears of blood. Captive virgins, in the hands of an impotent god. Dionian will have none of that, Eve. As you should have learned when your order attempted to build a convent over my sacred temple.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then she puts on an ivory penis strap on.
Hell yeah. Oh yeah, we didn't talk about that. Oh yeah, she teases her with an ivory penis.
I'm assuming it's ivory.
It's like a drill penis.
Yeah.
I think isn't that what like a snake dick looks like? Aren't snake dicks like weird and pointy and scaly and weird?
Dan, I don't want to Google that.
Google it. All right.
That in your search history.
If you've gotten this far into this bonkers episode, leave us a 5-star rating, all 5 stars, please, and describe for us what a snake penis looks like without using the word snake or penis.
Oh, no, it didn't look like that.
Greg caved.
All right.
Yeah, gotta get back to my notes now. Nothing will ever be the same.
I think you just got on a list.
Yeah, it's fine. I didn't even X out the tab. Yeah, so she does put on a big, what I'll call a drill dough. It's very
nice,
drill shaped. But she also has Eve go over to her phone and call her sister and tell her that she's going to London for some peace and quiet for a few days because Sylvia's going to sacrifice Eve to the snake monster god.
She says like, oh, the god prefers virgin sacrifices, but they're so hard to come by. So you're going to have the privilege of being sacrificed alive.
Oh, see, I thought she was a virgin.
No,
I thought Eve was a virgin.
No, because she stays at the party with Hugh Grant overnight. And when they get to the house and find the watch, they're like making playful talk about how they stayed up all night, quote unquote, dancing. There's like a lot of winking between them.
I honestly thought they were dancing.
I thought she was a virgin too, because she, the snake lady, like puts her finger up her. Did you guys catch this? She's like, oh, she's only in a shirt, right? And then you can only see like, and she puts her hand over. You can't really see what's happening, but then she says, "You've been a good girl" to her.
Yeah, I thought she was still a virgin.
Like she was kind of.
That's not how I read it. I thought they were going to sacrifice her alive because she wasn't. It was like a way to make up for the lack of virginity. That's how I read the lines. But they, you know what? Strike that snake penis review. Tell us in the review if you think Eve was a virgin. What are you going to say, Greg?
I don't know. I thought she was a virgin. That's all I thought. And I thought
I'm outvoted.
Like,
it's cool. I could have read it wrong. Maybe I read it wrong.
The snake needs a virgin. Right? So, like, what would be the point of sacrificing a non-virgin virgin, even if she's alive?
I don't understand the thing about virginity, to be honest. I don't understand.
What's the deal with virginity?
How does that work?
I was on an airplane and they gave me peanuts and took my virginity.
Yeah, she says diet likes virgins like your false god or something. She's pretty explicit about it, I think.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So I definitely think she was a virgin.
Okay. All right. I'm convinced. I take it all back.
Yeah, good. Yeah, so Eve makes the call, hangs up, and Mary had answered, and she's pretty worried. Hold on.
You could say she was Mary worried.
No, it's not scratch. I'm gonna start over.
Damn it.
From the whole beginning of the movie.
Let's dive into this plot.
So
Mary
Stabby.
So Mary makes the call over to Eve makes the call over to Mary, saying that she's going to London for a few days, blah blah blah, like we said. But she's able to kind of like break out of this trance when she sees her Jesus ring, and she starts like she starts yelling the name Dionin over the phone, and I think. Yeah, eventually the phone kind of cuts off or gets hung up. And Mary tells Angus and James she's like, she kept saying Dionin. And they come to discover that Dionin is the name of a pagan snake god. And which connects to like the white worm, and they connect it to the Romans and Eve's hallucinations from earlier. Mm-hmm. And like, somehow James is also able to connect it all to Sylvia. There's a lot of like thumbtacks and pinboard kind of discussion.
Yeah, well put.
Strings going all across different directions.
They're like, there's a snake here and a snake here, and then Hugh Grant like looks down the barrel of the lens and is like, Sylvia had a snakes and ladders game. I'm pretty sure that was that was the jump.
Yeah. Yeah, that it was fun. It was really funny. Yeah, because he mentioned Dionin, and I think Angus says like, "Oh, it was the pagan snake god," and there's basically like some funny conversation between Angus and James, where it's just like, "Well, why didn't you tell me that?" He's like, "Well, I didn't think about it until this." It's like, "Oh, well, why didn't you tell me?" Well, I didn't know it at all. So It was pretty good.
Some British humor.
Yeah, they were very good
first?
Brit boys. All right, so
Dream sequence or hallucination.
We've talked a lot about the women in this movie, but these boys are handsome. Young Peter Capaldi has a great head of hair, big old fluff ball.
The big old fluff ball.
Yeah, he's like Frodo, but Britisher.
Eric, I'm sorry to tell you, I didn't write down this hallucination.
What? That's okay. I did. Let's get into it.
Can you please describe it?
My only notes are that they're impaled nuns. Very, very Vlad the Impaler. They're on spikes with their white nun outfits. And Sylvia is basically giving like one of the spikes a blowjob.
It's awesome.
Yeah, that's right.
And it's bloody and she's nude. And it's pretty wild. Yeah.
The spikes look like penises. They've got like little round tips. Yeah. Did I say the obvious thing again? Anything in this, every object, when we talk about an actor sitting down on a chair, you should assume the chair is shaped like a penis.
Yeah. I remember why I didn't write it down, because like this scene felt like one of the like musical interludes in the Austin Powers movies where they're like dancing between scenes.
Well, she trips out because she has venom spit on her. So it's the venom that kicks in this hallucination.
Yeah, she's one of the people that Lady Sylvia doesn't bite. She just sprays her.
Yes. Good point, dude. That's important for the ending.
All right. So next night, I guess, James ends up connecting like all these speakers all over the inside and outside of his house to basically charm whoever the snake is.
This is a scene where like
Sylvia.
the butler like creams his pants thinking about his old master.
Yeah. He's, oh God, it's this butler's awesome.
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah, he is.
He hates what he's doing. Like he hates his job and he hates James, I think. But like
totally,
it's just so funny.
At one point, he's just eating potato chips. He's like, "Oh, yes.
Yeah." Well, there's like a
All right,
911 call.
Yeah, you want me to do something? Okay, yeah.
Yeah, he's the best. I don't remember his name though.
Isn't it Peters?
So,
it's Peters.
I think it's Peters. Yeah. So they've got speakers hooked up all over the place, playing loud like snake charmer music, and it cuts to Sylvia's house, and we just see her coming out of this, like slithering up out of this like giant wicker basket, and she ends up like dancing her way out of the house.
Like I Dream of Jeannie. She slithers up out of a basket.
It's so stupid. It's like the dumbest thing in the movie.
But she makes it so sexy.
Well, yeah.
She's so good.
She does like this dancing strut thing. She's in like all leather. It's very cartoony too. It's very like Looney Tune-ish.
Yeah,
like
well the other two are like waiting right outside. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, like if Bugs Bunny was in an all leather outfit dressed up as a girl.
It's a Looney Tunes I want to see.
I feel like
giant fangs.
That seems plausible, to be honest.
Yeah. So Sylvia dances out of the house. Meanwhile, Angus and Mary sneak into her house as she leaves. They see a Roman emperor bust in the hallway. They see a statue or like a sculpture of a mongoose being like killed by a snake. And Angus mentions that the mongoose is the mortal enemy of the snake. So that'll come up a little later.
Yep.
So they end up going into a room in one of the houses, and they see a woman watching a video or watching TV, and it looks like a woman like just sucking on a snake, straight up. But the woman in the chair ends up being Mary's mom, who is now a vampire snake, and she ends up biting Mary on the neck. But Angus is able to scare off her mom with fire. And Angus sucks the venom out of Mary's neck.
Ooh, like a cup full of it.
Yeah, it's a lot of sexy venom.
If you break into a house and are wandering through it and stumble across a dark room where there's a creepy woman watching porn at full volume, break back out of that house. Just leave.
Just moonwalk backwards out as quietly as possible.
Yep. This will be a memory for you only, and you will get to live to tell the tale.
We also get another hallucination in this little sequence too, with like the cave drawings coming to life with like natives with the strap-ons and spiked dongs.
Oh yeah, and the dongs are like stabbing through somebody. They keep showing the penises like impaling somebody's torso.
Yep. Yeah, it's her. I think it's like her point of view, and they're impaling her. Yeah, it's crazy.
Nasty.
So much in this movie. So much.
And it's so fast too. That's another quick one. I think the only line I have in my notes about that one is penis stabbing and 3 exclamation points.
and a heart and also a little heart over the eye and the word penis.
And a note that says, "Put this in your diary."
Oh man.
It was shocking. It was a great moment.
Yeah. All right. So Angus sucks the venom out of Mary's neck. So Mary hopefully is safe. So back at James's house, the power goes out and the butler gets killed. We then see, James is expecting Sylvia to be there, but we see Mary's mom run in, and James grabs his sword off the wall and cuts her in half, very much like his ancestor did to the White Worm.
Oh, nice.
Angus,
I didn't pick that. Yeah, nice. I didn't pick up on that.
I assumed it was the same sword too, but
totally, yeah, it would be because he got off the mantle. I just didn't. Yeah, nice.
So Mary's mom is now cut in half and still alive on the ground. Like, and this just like House on Tombstone Hill. Like this effect is great, but it's ruined when you can see the floor holes, like where like the legs are coming out. But regardless.
It's cool.
So she's
awesome.
cut in half. We get a call from Angus, and he's checking in. He's like, "Why is the music off? And what's going on?" And he's like, "Well, it wasn't." Or James basically says, like, "Yo, it wasn't who I was expecting, but like I've killed the worm. I've done my family proud." And Angus says that he's going to do some research now, because now he's got a snifter full of venom that he can do some research with. But we don't actually learn that much about his research, by the way, or at least I didn't think we did, but we'll see. Tell me.
The least they could possibly do to set up a crazy leap at the end of the movie.
Right.
Yeah, it's true.
Right. Yeah.
So next day, Ernie, the cop, picks up Mary, saying that she needs to come and identify her mother's body. But in reality, he's actually taking her to Sylvia's house because he is also a vampire snake man monster.
I'm assuming maybe she bit him when he came to the house that one night, and we just didn't see that moment.
I assume she was the snake that bit him in the ankle.
Oh,
to begin with.
That was the bite that did it.
I think so.
That makes sense. I'm an idiot. All right, yeah, that makes a ton of sense.
I mean, she could have bitten him later. We didn't need to see it. He just implied that she was kind of flirting with him to begin with.
I mean, I just want to see that jolly, chubby police officer just get some loving by this smoking hot snake goddess.
Yeah, we all want to see it. So Ernie, the fat, adorable cop vampire man, is chasing after Mary on Sylvia's property. Angus,
I love this scene, by the way. This scene with the Scottish dude.
Snake cop. So Angus shows up. And he's dressed. He took the time to put on his kilt and all his his Scottish stuff, and he's playing his bagpipe to lead Ernie away from Mary. And the bagpipe goes on surprisingly long until Angus basically runs out of breath to play it, and Ernie's able to get close enough to attack him, and there's a short struggle, and Ernie is killed. When Angus pushes him away and he falls on a spike or something like that goes through his head and pokes his one eyeball out. It looked awesome. It was great.
It's like a sundial. Yeah.
Dude, that true story. That bagpipe trick works on cops. That's why that's why they play them at cop funerals when they have those big parades. They're keeping all the cops behaving well when they're in public. once those bagpipes stop, those cops just pull out their guns, start blasting.
They follow the bag. That's why they're all perfectly in line.
Yep,
because they're following the bagpipes. Oh man, that's so good.
I know. Could you imagine how terrifying that would be to be the cop mesmerizer for parades? Man, you run out of breath. James
Well, pressure.
Capaldi found out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, all right.
Peter Capaldi.
Yeah.
I just called him James Capaldi.
Yeah, Ken Russell also, I don't know if he has something against this actor, but after he gets impaled with the sundial in his commentary, he's like, now he's got 2 bad eyes.
Oh.
Oh, no.
I was like, bad taste, man. But
No, that's fucking hysterical.
That's really funny, but like,
man.
maybe
he's
he's
an actor.
Maybe he's
Like,
cool. Maybe he's like buddies with them or something. Maybe they're like, you know what I mean? I don't know.
I hope so, because that's
Yeah,
funny as
yeah.
hell. That's
It
so
was
funny.
it was cruel, but funny. Yeah.
Oh, poor guy. Hey, he was a great actor. I loved his character, and I was sad
he's
to see him
awesome.
turn evil. Yeah,
Yeah, he's awesome.
Yeah.
he was really charming.
All right. So from here, after killing our sweet, sweet baby boy cop Ernie,
Oh, PC Ernie.
Angus. Well, I like that we like the fat, weird side characters.
I relate to them.
We really do.
Yeah.
Never
the
mind the
Angus ends-
handsome rich lord. Give us the
No.
Yeah,
fat,
fuck that guy.
fat
Give me
guy.
that old, sweet, dumb cop.
I just want my fingers to always be sticky with sugar when I'm old. You know? I want that life. I want to have a pocket full of like hard caramels and tell kids that like evil worms are going to get them if they don't behave. That sounds like a fun way to be.
I want your imagination and your life and your dreams.
No, you don't.
All right. So Angus goes into Sylvia's house. He's playing the bagpipes again, trying to lure Sylvia out. We see him having he has a syringe that looks like he injects it into himself, but then he also releases a mongoose into the house.
A real mongoose.
And
a real life mongoose.
This is not a fake statue
I
of a mongoose.
love that they
This
don't
is
have a scene where he catches a mongoose. He just produces one.
Well, he produced both a syringe of something that we'll find out what it is later, and also a mongoose.
Yes.
Where did he get either of them? It was like 3 hours.
Well,
at
he
most.
produces something later out of his kilt too. That's a little shocking.
Oh yeah, also
Oh
that.
my god, that's right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
another white worm.
Maybe his kilt is like a magical realm. Like it's
Well,
like
here's the thing.
Captain
He was
Caveman.
Doctor Who. He's
That's
Doctor Who,
true.
so maybe his kilt is the TARDIS.
His
Yeah.
kilt is bigger on the inside.
He just pulls out whatever like random objects.
I like to think
Love
that
it.
like it's 80s era Walmart in Britain was really fucked up. Like he in 3 hours he could run out, get like venom analyzed, and buy stuff that we'll talk about, and just get and a live mongoose. Yeah, he went down the mongoose aisle and picked out the right one.
That's great.
Yep.
The noisiest Walmart.
So he threw the mongoose out to go hunt the snake, and Sylvia ends up running out of her room, and knocking Angus over, and ends up biting him in the leg and paralyzing him and dragging him into a basement dungeon cavern thing.
Yeah.
Where we also see that Mary and Eve are there,
Great,
and
can-
Eve is
Can we talk about the mongoose thing just real quick? Because there's a lot of cool stuff that happens. So
yeah, you're gonna need to talk about this.
Bing,
So
bong,
go
bong.
on.
Yeah.
Bing, bong, bong. Yeah, when he releases the mongoose, it goes behind a curtain, right? It's like whoop, it disappears behind a curtain, and you hear like a little bit of a struggle, and then the mongoose is dead, and it comes flying out and smacks him in the face, and then that's when she appears and like bites him. And this is the first time we see her, I think, in all blue with her like snake contact eyes and all. She looks awesome.
Yeah,
and
we see that actually in the hallucinations,
Oh,
but
you're
not
right.
in
You're
like
totally
real
right.
life. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. And the reason that the bagpipes didn't have an effect on her is because she had earplugs in.
Earplugs, yeah.
She just like busts these earplugs out and like starts laughing. You know, it's so great. It's like it's so fun, and I think she's just having like the time of her life. It looks like she's just loving it. You know, but yeah, I love that sequence. It's goofy and it's funny and it's horrific too when she bites him.
Yeah, who hasn't had a day where they felt like they got a mongoose carcass flung on their face? You know, it happens to the best of us.
Yeah. And she's naked and painted blue with like, green stripes and the rest of the movie. I mean, there's not that much left, but
Yeah.
So she's been in that makeup chair for a while.
Yeah, there's an
for this movie.
awesome shot with like her fangs exposed where she's like looking to the left of the camera like hunched over him. It's actually on the back of the DVD. It's like one of the classic shots from the movie in that sequence. It's so cool. Looks great.
I like to imagine the entire time she was in that makeup chair, Ken Russell was 10 feet away in another chair, just sipping champagne and watching. That's probably how it went down.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, so in the dungeon, now we got Angus, Mary, and Eve is like strung up over a like well or a hole, because she is going to be sacrificed, as we mentioned, to the white worm god Dionin.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, James has a group bringing like a big thing of gas, like smoke, into the canyon to where the small fissure is, to see like where it's connected, like where will the smoke come out, and they're trying to smoke the white worm out. Now we're back to the dungeon. We see the smoke start coming up through the well, but we also see the giant monster worm coming up as well. Like just growling. It looked pretty great.
Yeah.
This the puppet looked, I would say, 90% solid.
Way better than like it was very Sarlacc pit, but better.
Yes.
Well,
I have the same note. It's a little Sarlacc.
I wouldn't say better, only because, you know, anytime you have like a monster that's a puppet or an animatronic, and you can see like this worm's mouth was red, so you just like saw that there was nowhere for things to go. You know, it is just a puppet.
I kind of thought the mouth of the puppet was a little like vaginal. Like it was like lots of folds.
All right, you know, that's true. So I take it all back. Give me that vagina puppet.
Finally, we get to talk about vaginas. Jesus, this whole episode. Yeah, I don't know. That's just the way I read it.
Tremorsy too, like
yeah,
like a little bit of tremors, a little bit of Sarlacc pit. A little bit penis.
Oh, you know, I think we passed it. There is at some point there was a line of exposition that somebody delivers where they talk about like, why would they talk about snakes or worms? Why would they use the word worm instead of snake? And they had that line about like, oh, snakes can pleasure themselves. Snakes can divide themselves to reproduce. So they described them as like hermaphroditic in the movie. And then that, like, to me, that connected all the like, oh, like women, topless women with like huge penis strap-ons would be like a part of that line. So yeah.
Nice.
So I thought when I saw the giant snake god also had kind of a vagina mouth, I was like, oh, okay, it's keeping that theme going. It's all at once.
That also helps that like, so the ancestor cut the worm in half, but there's a worm skull in the ground, which makes sense. Maybe that's the one that died, but there's one still in the cave. Oh,
shit.
So I guess like it cut in half and then just grew back, right?
Which also kind of parallels what happened to Christianity.
I mean, it would have had to, right? Like he killed the worm god. So how would there be another worm god stuck in the cave where like the boulders fell or whatever?
You're totally
like
right.
It couldn't get out.
I hadn't considered that. Yeah. And just like the Romans killed Jesus and the rest of the Christianity came, out of that. Yeah. Same thing.
There we go. The snake is Jesus.
That's what we landed on.
I think that's what Dan said.
Jesus is a white worm.
Yeah, so the giant worm monster is starting to come up as Sylvia is about to cut Eve from the ropes that she's tied to and send her down the well into the awaiting maw of the monster worm. Angus wakes up from his paralyzation and ends up knocking Sylvia down, and Sylvia grabs onto Eve's foot. And the rope that's holding Eve's hand is like slowly coming apart. And Sylvia is, like I said, grabbing onto Eve's foot. So Angus takes a knife and just starts cutting Eve's hand off. Like
he's like sawing it.
Brutal.
Yeah. He's like,
grizzly.
You need to sharpen that knife.
Yeah, try hacking. Do a hacking motion.
Yeah, he's really working at it.
Yeah,
it's cool. Yeah,
it's definitely it's rough. But he does end up cutting off her hand, and Sylvia falls down into the mouth of Dionin and ends up being the human sacrifice that it was waiting for. And So Eve and Sylvia's now safe. Oh no, what's her name? Eve is now safe. Angus sends Eve and Mary out of the cave, and Angus goes back to the well, pulls a grenade out of his kilt,
a hand grenade,
like directly where his wiener would be. He pulls a grenade out and chucks it into the worm's mouth, which explodes the giant worm. And I don't think there's any growing back from that. They get at it.
Grenade in the kilt trick.
Yep. Is that where the pockets are on a kilt?
I don't know.
Is it just right at your dick?
You know, this is reaching for straws, but maybe it's like another metaphor that he reaches into his like crotch and pulls out a round weapon and shoves it down the throat of the penis worm. That kind of tracks. Yeah, I don't know where do you get a grenade from in like old timey Britain? I have no idea. I thought that stuff was outlawed there. I thought they were a saner people.
Yeah, I think in the kilt there's like a little like an emblem type thing that lifts up. And you keep your whiskey in there. Like
nice.
Like a little flask. So maybe he had a grenade next to his whiskey bottle or something. I don't know.
I would hope. All right, so they get out of the cave, and Angus gives Mary the antidote for the venom that he had gotten created. That was what his research was. He then calls an ambulance to get them to the hospital. Later that day, we see Angus and James discussing what had happened, how, they wouldn't have been able to kill the worm if James didn't kind of smoke it out and like force it out of its hole. But during that, a phone call comes in the house, and Angus goes and answers it. And it turns out it's the science department or whatever, whoever makes antidote for snake vampires.
It's a woman nurse, and she's like, I'm so-and-so, I'm a nurse, I'm not the doctor. And I put in my notes she had to clarify that of course she wouldn't be the doctor.
But it turns out they gave him the wrong vial. They had accidentally given him like arthritis medicine, but he can come and get his snake antidote like the next day. And he looks at himself in the mirror, and you see worry come across his face because like he got bitten and he took the antidote, and that's what he thought was the reason why he woke up from his paralyzation to be able to kind of save the day. But he's wrong. But then Angus and James then head to the hospital to go see the girls, but decide to stop for a bite beforehand.
Hey.
Angus shifts the car into another gear, and his kilt moves up, and it reveals the bite legs on his leg. The bite marks on his leg to James, and we cut to credits because Angus is now going to continue on the snake vampire world.
Yay!
in Lair of the White Worm 2, Runaway with Nightmare. We're coming for your worm farm.
So, but basically everyone's been bitten. Even Hugh Grant, they cut away, but they implied that he had been bitten with when Mary was there. The only one that wasn't bitten was Eve. She was just sprayed. So essentially they're just like a coven of vampires that their bones and their joints are really well oiled. They won't have arthritis, but they're going to be snake vampires the rest of their lives.
Huh.
Right? Isn't that right?
Yeah.
It's like a very bleak ending.
I don't know. I would take that trade. I'd live forever and be a snake vampire. No shit. I would do that. The bite seems nasty, but live forever. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. What's he say to him? You want to stop away for a bite? He's like, why?
Yeah. I like it. It was that was fun.
All right.
All right. Yeah. So that was Lair of the White Worm in all its messy glory. Sorry, it was a tough one. It was a tough one to break down, I think, for me.
I think all three of us were hallucinating through this whole thing. We forgot to mention we took some psilocybin before the start of this episode.
Let's go. What do you guys say we dislodge a tooth from a snake's mouth and stab this movie to death?
Let's do it.
Time for the ratings.
So here on Stabby Stabby, we rate our films that we've just covered by stabbing them repeatedly to death. 1 being it was the worst thing we've ever seen in our lives, and 10 being we had a really good time and we loved this film. So we're going to get right into the ratings. Let's start with Greg. Greg, how would you rate this film? How many stabs would you give Lair of the White Worm?
So for Lair of the White Worm, I think I'm gonna go 6.5 stabs. I think that's low though. Like it's fun. The acting just it turned me off this time. I've seen this movie before and I've loved it, and this time it just was not clicking for me as well. And I don't know if you could tell by my breakdown, I just couldn't concentrate during it. Like it was wild. The effects, like the vampire effects, like the fangs and everything looked great. The actress that played Sylvia was a work of art, her performance. Like she was so fun. But the rest of the cast were kind of like boring, especially compared to her. Nothing reached her level at all. She was teaching them how to act in this movie, in my opinion. I don't appreciate Ken Russell making fun of our old man Ernie the cop.
Stick up for
the
Ernie.
commentary. But yeah, so it's definitely fun. I think for me, I just needed to be in a right place for it, and I don't think I was, but it's worth watching. It's kind of a beautiful movie. It's shot incredibly well. The hallucination scenes are your own little just short acid trips, so you just get to relax and enjoy nude nuns. So
relax. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, 6.5 for me. I don't know what else to say about it, but definitely the Blu-ray looks phenomenal. So if you are interested and you haven't seen it, do search that out, because it's well worth the purchase. How about you, Dan? How many stabs are you giving it?
I went back and forth, and I think I'm going to give this a 9. I almost gave it a 10, but I'm going to give it a 9. I love this movie. I'm sorry it didn't click for you. It clicked really hard for me, and I went back and forth. I gave Radioactive Dreams a 10, but that's so special. And this movie is also extremely special, and I feel like tomorrow I'm going to wake up and wish I'd given it a 10, but I'm going to say 9. I'm going to stick to my guns. That's what I wrote down when the credits were rolling. I loved it. There's not much else to say. I loved the performances, although the Mary character, her exasperated line delivery was it like gave me stress to listen to. I was worried for her, like she wasn't getting enough breath or something. But man, I really enjoyed it. All of it clicked with me. And you can watch this as like a goofy movie if you wanted to, and you'll walk away pleased. You can watch it as a like weird psychedelic movie and walk away pleased. There's a lot of layers to it. That whole like Lord, police, commissioner, commoner power dynamic thing, and then the cultish / Christianity like conflict. There's a lot to read into it, and I love a movie that has those kinds of layers to dive into. So I loved it. I'm giving it a 9 out of 10. I plan on rewatching it again soon, and God bless Ken Russell. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Eric, did you like this movie?
Hell yeah, I did. I struggled as well. So I went through the same feelings, Dan. I was like, I really want to give this a 10. But I'm going to stick to what I wrote down when I watched it, which was a 9. So I rated it exactly the same.
Nice.
But I was hovering, man. I was like, oh, I really want to go there. The only reason I'd knock a point off, I think, is some of the exposition sequences did run a little long. But man, when it goes crazy, it goes for it. Like everything's a dong or a snake or a snake lady with a dong. The dream sequences are insane. There's a bagpiper that plays a weapon as an instrument almost, and a guy gets impaled by a sundial. It's pretty wild. Fun, weird, surrealistic. It's horror, it's comedy horror. I like it a lot. Yeah, I love it. I visit this, revisit it every year. So I like Ken Russell too. I'm a big fan of his other stuff, especially Altered States and Tommy. So yeah, 9 out of 10 for me. Lair of the White Worm. Always happy to watch some nude snake ladies.
Seek it out. You know, I feel like it's appropriate that given our spread of scores, it wound up with something like a 6 and a 9, like a 69. I think that's perfect. That's exactly what this movie would want.
Make Ken Russell proud.
Yeah. Well, I hope you all took a hit of acid and enjoyed this long trip with us down this deep cave to explore all 3 of our white worms together. If you listen this long, thank you so much. And if you wouldn't mind, just whatever app or service you use to listen to podcasts, throw a review on there. Let them know that you hate us and you never want us to be hosted. And why the hell are you hosting that kind of trash? I'm just kidding. Just please say nice things. I was being sarcastic. Please say nice things. If you want to learn about movies that we're going to be talking about later, Greg, how can people find out about those?
You can come on over to what we have affectionately nicknamed our White Wormhole on Instagram. And you can follow us at StabbyPod, StabbyPod. Every Wednesday we'll announce the next movie that we're watching, and our new episodes come out every Monday morning, 6 a.m. Eastern time, I think. You shouldn't be awake at that time. That's stupid and silly.
Oh, and you might have noticed recently we've started like throwing polls up on Instagram and asking people that follow us there, like, which would you rather see? Like, if people don't have recommendations, you sometimes, like, the same way you're wandering through a Blockbuster and you're looking at DVD covers or VHS covers or something like that, and you pick a movie, just, how does that cover make you feel? And thought that'd be a fun way to let people weigh in on what they think we should be watching next. So we might do more of that, because the last time we did it, that movie was certainly a movie, and I'm sure it was great. So yeah, check out the Instagram and only us on Instagram, because that platform is a trash fire. Otherwise, hey, thanks for listening this long, and you know what we like to say at the end of every episode.
Don't forget to white your worm.
How about don't forget to cut your mom in half, who happens to be a snake vampire, with a knight's sword from your ancestors.
after a fresh session of VHS porn.
Right.
But normally I think we'd say, don't forget to stab your friends. Mwah.
Love you.